So drawer boxes, my plan is to use bits and pieces that I have that will probably eventually end up getting thrown away come my demise. I lost some video, but I had a bunch of long pieces I pulled down from the attic, and we're just going to use what we have. Trying to stick with lots of old clear fir scraps and lots of nice cypress and lots of various things. Just trying to use them up and pick little stable lightweight boards.
So this is the first day's drawer side glue ups. I wasn't paying too much attention to the width, but the length of these is long enough to get a side and a front out of. So I'll get all the clamps put away and I'll rip them to the right width, and the drops I will glue back together to make more widths, and I'll see how much more I got to do to finish the project. I want to get them all made and planed at the same time before I start putting them together, and that way I can do all the joints at the same time. I can plow the groove for the plywood bottom all at the same time. It will be just more efficient. I may just have to wait a day or so until I get all the glue dry. So I've got enough glued up for the 2 bottom drawers and the 2 second to bottom drawers, and almost enough for the 3rd to bottom drawer. And I have some more glued up this morning, but I'm going to go ahead and plane these down to, I'm shooting for a 1/2 inch, but it really doesn't make that much difference. Whatever I get close to that, be a lot of planing. I'm fixing to make a lot of noise and turn a lot of wood into sawdust. So I've got enough of these cut and planed that I can figure out how many more I'm short, and I have enough in the clamps. So in a couple hours I can finish preparing all this stock. Yeah, so this comes out kind of cool. I got some longleaf pine, some sinker cypress, some sycamore, some type of oak. This is walnut, mostly sapwood, but it's walnut. This is some cypress. This is sycamore, cypress, hard pine, mahogany. I didn't mean to cut that. Heart pine, walnut, and so on. But we got enough. We'll let this dry for an hour or two. Cut the rest of it and get it all prepped to width, and then before we start cutting the lengths. And we can cut all the lengths pretty much at one time because all the drawer sides are the same length.
And all the fronts are the same length.
So I think I have enough material cut for all the drawer sides. They're set in different widths because each drawer from the bottom is wider to skinnier at the top. So I'm going to start cutting a 45 on each end of each one of these, and then I'll cut the fronts and the backs. That's the longer pieces, and then I'll cut the sides. And all the drawers are the same dimension, so that makes it easy. I'll need 2, 4, 6, 8. I'll need 16 fronts and backs, and I'll need 16 sides, and they'll be the same. And then I'll have to plow the joint for the plywood that goes in the bottom.
The first thing I'm doing is cutting a 45 on one end of each and every board. Check my 45 with my little indicator. It's pretty accurate, and I don't know how much extra I have in length on some of these, so I'm just cutting enough to get a good 45 on the end and no more. I'm trying to be a little particular here. Okay, I'm ready to cut the first batch to length. I have a stop block clamped to the fence, and that's where I need to touch each and every one, and I have the block set far enough back so when I'm actually making the cut, I'm free of the stop block, so I don't have to worry about it getting in a bind or getting crooked. And pretty idiot proof as long as I have the bevel facing the right way.
So they're all cut to length, and I think that went pretty well. And I have some nice size scraps, so that always works good when experimenting with cuts. So when I go to do the plowed joint for the plywood, I'll practice on one of these until I get the saw set just right. And interesting thing, yesterday when I was doing my ciphering, I was one short on the short side, so I stopped what I was doing and glued another one because I didn't want to, I wanted to do do this operation start to finish. I didn't want to have to stop and reset out. And today I have one extra side, so go figure.
Now it's time for the dados. This is the groove to accept the plywood bottom. The plywood is so thin that 2 passes over the blade is a wide enough groove. So I didn't bother to set up a dado blade. I'm just using a regular saw blade. And on each board I'm taking a quick look at it, and if one of the edges is a harder wood than the other edge, I'm putting the hardwood down. That's the wear surface of the drawer. It should wear a little longer. Some of this cypress, some of this old growth clear fir is really soft, so other than that, it's just a matter of passing them through the blade, and then I reset the fence, practiced on some scraps, and made another pass, and then I was wide enough for the plywood bottom.
Okay, so by measuring the grooves, I got a plywood size for the bottom, and I want it tight, but I don't want it too tight. So I'm gonna shoot for 24 7/16 by 17 3/8. I'm gonna cut one, see how that does. And they all should be the same. I should be able to cut 8 pieces, and they should all fit if the first one fits. We'll see. Okay, success on drawer number 1. It's dry clamped. I had these little corner blocks from a previous project, and I just have one strap in the middle, and it pulls up square. There's a little adjustment. I got to make sure I get it tapped square before the glue sets, but the plywood's the right size, so I can cut 8 pieces. That's what I'll do. I'll get them all cut, sand all the edges, and start putting these things together.
Okay, it's glue up time. Since I'm gluing end grain, I have glue on both 45s, not just one, because the end grain tends to soak up a little glue. And on each and every one of these, I've done a dry fit first, just to make sure the plywood's going to drop in the groove. I've sanded the edge of the plywood to edges of the plywood to have it slide in the groove a little better. It's kind of tricky with one person, but not too bad. So the first couple I glued with the little corner blocks and one strap, and it's a little challenging keeping everything correct, copacetic. Like the top wanted to be sticking out and the bottom was tight, or vice versa. So after the second one, I switched to using 2 ratchet straps and these metal corner brackets that come with them. And you need to use the corner brackets because they're rounded on the outside corner, and it allows the strap to slip. If you don't use the corner brackets, the strap tends to be real tight on the side with the ratchet, but it doesn't slip around the corners well, so the backside will be loose. So these little corner things work really well. Just get them straight and crank down on the ratchet with this little wrench that comes with it. You can get these things incredibly tight. So I put the top one, get it snugged up, and then I put the bottom one, get it snugged up, and then I just start looking and tapping around, making sure everything's straight. And I check with the framing square, and I pull them up really, really tight. And I think I'm getting some good results this way.
So all the drawers are glued up, and I'm sanding the corners, and I had to cut them because they were a little too tall. That's okay. I'd rather have to cut them than have them too short. And I got a lazy bum in this drawer, and I got a few more clamps to take off. And within an hour I should be through sanding, and I'm gonna have to think about corner braces to make them stronger, because that little glue joint is it's okay for assembly, but it's not long term.
Putting the dado set on the table saw, I grabbed the 2 main blades and then a couple of spacers, and it's going to be roughly a 1/2 inch. groove that we're getting ready to cut.
So to brace up these drawer sides, I'm cutting some little notches in the corners. I'm gonna cut one more in the middle of each one, and I'll glue a block, and that'll make this joint pretty strong between the three of them. And this is all done with a machine, no handwork. Something that I can do and get good repeatability and make them all look the same and make them all look copacetic. So I put a dado blade, which is cutting close to a 1/2 inch. I didn't really measure it, I just put it on there. And I have my saw sled, which is just a guide to help me with awkward pieces. And this little attachment holds things up at a 45. So just put the drawer case right here, run it through the blade, and the next corner and the next corner, and then turn them around and do the front half. And then when I'm through with all of them, I'll go back and do another one in the middle. And I'll have to reset the saw for each drawer because they're all a little bit different widths. So the wood that I'm going to make the little keys out of is a mahogany. It's not a super mahogany, but coincidentally, it was a drawer. It was a drawer. It came out of a Grand Bank. So I'm going to plane this down. Feel it fits in those little grooves. Fairly straight grain and strong, but not too hard, so it won't be so hard to sand. So that's why I picked this. So we've got some strips of the mahogany planed to the right thickness and ripped to the right width. And I did a practice one, and it's cut to the right length. So all I need to do is cut 96 of these and epoxy them into place, and then we'll sand the edges. And that is a joint that I can do with my poor eyesight and my shaky hands, and the drawer will be more than adequately strong for sure.
The little corner blocks fit pretty well, pretty snug, and there's a lot of surface area, so I went back with yellow glue, not epoxy, and there's a bunch of them. I set the drawers up, and I glued all the ones up top facing the sky, and I let those dry, and then I put the belt sander on them and knocked them down flush, then flipped the drawers over, then did the other ones, and there's a bunch of them, 96 total. I think I'm ending up with some good strong drawer boxes using this technique.
Okay, 96 little corner braces, all cut, fit, glued, and sanded, at least rough sanded. The next thing, we're going to put the drawers in the carcass and get the side guides figured out. Keep the drawers from banging around side to side.
So getting these drawers to slide correctly and adjusted, that's a whole new bag of worms. So let's end this video here, and we'll do the drawer glides and probably wrap it up on the next video. Thanks for watching.